how much opportunity there is for someone to come in and take this as a true business approach and not a hobby, not a, I like opening doors and seeing what's going on and gossiping. I sold for just under $1 million, $925, I believe, an 8,000 square foot house in Winston-Salem.
Wow.
Anyone that's thinking of going to the real estate world, it is one of the easiest ways and low barrier to entry ways to figure out a ton of business skills that you need to know.
Oh, 100%.
And if you do well, you can do really well. The real estate market and the brokerage model is so ripe for disruption. And there is so many things that you could truly do to disrupt that market. And just a wild idea, take care of real estate agents.
Welcome to the Chris Salerno Show, your go-to for real estate, business, health, and family insight. I'm Chris Salerno, CEO of QC Capital. Each episode, we explore the latest trends and expert advice from industry leaders. Whether you're an investor, entrepreneur, or seeking balance, this show provides an inspiration you need. Join us and elevate your game on the Chris Salerno Show. Welcome to the Chris Salerno Show. I'm your host, Chris Salerno. Excited to have Will on the show. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, a lot of different backgrounds, from furniture to charity to real estate. So I'm excited about this conversation. Will, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's dive straight into it, and let's start with childhood. You know, where you grew up, and then walk us through that whole life journey.
Yeah, so I am from the Kannapolis Concord area, so outside of Charlotte, for those that aren't local.
NASCAR country up there.
and that's a core part of it. My mom and dad have spent, how old am I? 25, so they've spent almost 40 years in the NASCAR world.
Oh, really?
So my dad has worked forever doing licensing and advertising. If you've bought merchandise and a logo has had to pass through, that company that he's worked with has done that for a really long time.
Oh, wow.
My mom's worked in NASCAR, and I'm from downtown Kannapolis, down Earnhardt Boulevard.
Well, you know, downtown Kannapolis does not look like downtown anymore. It is grown substantially.
Yeah, I'm amazed. I mean, the baseball stadium, the breweries, everything.
That baseball stadium, I've been there, I think it was like 3 years ago. Yeah. They had a charity event that I attended, and there was like a speakeasy there.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really neat. But I was like, I don't even know this city. It's unbelievable.
Amazing to me. Well, and it's funny, we moved the people that used to own the Intimidators in high school, just friends of friends, small town Kannapolis. We moved into their house my senior year of high school.
It
is like, it's just funny to see how tiny the Smith family, the world is of Kannapolis, and the baseball, I mean, and that apartment complex that they're building. I mean, who would have thought that small town Kannapolis could be filling apartment complexes?
I mean, you go get a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, old 1970s house, it's going to cost you an arm and leg in Kannapolis now.
Oh, yeah. Times are a-changing.
That whole city's grown. So did you grow up a NASCAR fan?
I did not.
Okay.
It is, I would rather... Unfortunately, sorry, NASCAR, just stabbed myself in the eye with a fork.
Now, see, I'm a big F1 fan. Love F1. My son and I love F1. Yes. I took him to a park up here at the airport lookout, and I saw a guy with Michael Jordan's cup, and I was like, I knew what the logo was. So I was like, oh, hey, how are you? Blah, blah. We started talking. Come to find out, he works for the Michael Jordan's racing team. And so I told him, I was like, I'm a big F1 fan. Yeah. I love F1. It's classy. There's a lot of money in it, the drive, the motivation, whole different world, F1. And then I said, I watched a couple clips of NASCAR, and if you piss off a NASCAR driver, they'll shove you into the wall. Yeah. Like, they don't care. Yeah. F1, you don't do that. F1, those cars are $10-15 million for those cars. NASCAR, it seems like it's just a Kentucky, or just a old dirt track. I'm gonna run you into the wall whether you like it or not. I was shocked.
That's funny. Well, and it's a different world for sure, and it is. I mean, the joke of them just making left turns, I understand. Yeah. I mean, but they are moving 200 miles an hour. It is different if you're there and watching it. But
I think the big thing, what got 100%, you can see the statistics behind it. What blew up F1 was their documentary on Netflix. And that's the same thing. I saw there's a documentary on NASCAR, and I watched a little bit with Bubba Wallace, a couple other NASCAR drivers. And I think it's growing popularity with NASCAR. I see them doing more road races,
Yes.
which I would
Yeah.
be interested in going to a
Yeah.
NASCAR race
Yeah.
if it was like Chicago, downtown where it's more road instead of just the circle. Because I've been to the ones with the circle, and after a while, I'm like, I'm bored.
Well, and they are doing a big push. I know they just launched the electric car, so it sounds like that they're going the Formula E route, which is interesting.
So I'm not naming any names, but I was offered to buy a Formula E team.
No way.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was. I'm not going to name any names, but I was offered to purchase a Formula E team, and through my just quick due diligence, I was like, "Look, guys, I'm sorry, I can't get on board. I can't get on board because one, you're seeing Mercedes cut their EV by 2030. You're seeing a lot of these companies cut their EV. It is not as popular as you think it is, and especially with the racing side of the team, it's like, I don't want to like that's I can't even do the sound effect.
That was a good sound effect.
I mean, like I would rather listen to a Formula One car fly by at 200 miles an hour than just hear with no engine, you know, because I took my son to the Miami Formula One race. That engine, the vibration, I mean, that's why we go there. That's why he loved it. Formula E, you don't have that. So I don't think I could get on board. And if I can't get on board, why invest?
Yeah. And I don't know what they'll end up doing with the NASCAR electric car. I just saw that they announced it. And
Really?
they do have, I mean, Formula goes all the way to 4, I believe. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 for sub leagues and everything.
Yeah,
like that.
well, they have
Or is it-
F3, F2, F1.
Okay,
and
so
then
they don't
they
go
have
4.
the Academy. So the Academy is like 4, and then it's F3, F2, F1.
Yeah. Because I know that NASCAR, they have the truck races. They have whatever the
and then
one
isn't
other
there a
subdivision.
Yeah, there's one like right below it, like they do on a Saturday, I think.
So
or
they
something.
do. They're expanding in that way. But
Yeah.
I
Really,
I
a lot
have
of
no
those
idea.
guys come from dirt track.
Oh yeah.
You know, they move their way up from the dirt track to there. And isn't there one race that is a dirt track?
Yeah, if you go right to where the stadium is or the racetrack is up in Concord, they have the Z-Max drag strip. They have the big, whatever the Coca-Cola is, 400, 500, whatever it is. Then they have a dirt track right across.
Well, I
the
know
street as
that.
well.
I think there's a NASCAR dirt track, though. I think like out in Tennessee or something.
I had no idea.
It's a very small one, and I think they haul in dirt. Don't hold me to it. I'm asking you like you know everything about NASCAR.
We can make it up.
So, grew up in Kannapolis. You really got that entrepreneur bug very early.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that work ethic prior to, doing that.
Yeah. So I would say where I started to realize the importance of managing time was in high school. So before my brother and I started that furniture company that we'll get into, I started working at a gym in Cornelius as a personal trainer. So I was training.
So fitness was important.
Yes.
Health was important.
Yes, and always has been.
Why?
Out of just pure interest, I think, in performance. My older brother, excellent athlete, and soccer player. So he started working at the gym before I did. But then I find human performance interesting. Yeah. And everything.
The way the mind operates. That's why I love marketing.
Yeah.
And I call Stephanie probably 50,000 times a day, even throughout the middle of the night, because I enjoy marketing. I enjoy how the human mind works, how we operate, why we're attracted to someone or something, more than something else. And I think it's just very fascinating. And it also goes back to your health, which that's one of our topics in the podcast. Yeah. And it's super important because there's been so many studies with that placebo effect on if you just change your mindset, you heal quicker, you heal better than just taking a prescription pill.
Yeah. Well, and it is amazing to me how much 8 hours of sleep, a decent diet, and drinking your water and working out can check a lot of boxes and a lot of problems.
I work out every single day. I do meditation classes Tuesdays and Thursdays. Okay. I'm packed this Tuesday, so I had to do it on Monday. I know, right? I had to do it on Monday, so I did it last night, and I enjoy it. It's just it puts you in a whole different zone, whole different mood where you can really focus on accomplishments, situations that you have to overcome, things like that.
Well, and it's amazing, especially and just let me blow smoke here really quick, for someone like you that is intensely busy.
Thank you.
Covering so many different things, making such a big impact. You can't afford to really be foggy.
You can't. No.
Wasting a few hours a day because emails come in, things are flying by. things will very quickly slip
Oh,
by.
yeah. And, I mean, getting 400 emails, on a daily basis, and then one email is a great email, one email is a bad email. Yeah. It's like those emotions. Oh, yeah. When you read those, emails bring feelings to me, which is wild. Because I can write an email to you, if I'm mad, angry, happy, because that energy comes through those emails. It's so weird, but it does. And you got to be able to block some of that. You have to be able to know how to accept it and not bring it to another email. Oh, yeah. It's super important. I think meditation helps very clearly to address the situation that's at hand, cut it off, onto the next. Yeah. And I think more people should do that. And I think more people should focus on their health as well, especially with eating. Oh, yeah. So being a trainer, how important was really putting food into your system?
So it was an interesting time. So our core client, I was working at Raw Fitness up in Cornelius. The people that my brother and I trained were the elite level soccer players for the Carolina Rapids, so the Carolina Rapids Academy team. These were the guys that were 14 freshmen in high school and had full rights to any colleges if they wanted to, handful of professional athletes. Wow. Now some on the Charlotte FC team. And so it's a different game when you're 14 working out for 4 to 6 hours a day. So,
I bet.
So the diet side on that is caloric intake, and that
and at that age, they don't really fully understand. And you're here like, look, you are 14 years old. You're going to be a star athlete. We need to watch what you put into your system. You can't go out and eat Chick-fil-A, things like that. We got to watch what you intake.
Exactly, and we didn't have a full nutritionist in house, so we weren't totally in the place to be talking about nutrition and what you should and shouldn't be going, because the biggest thing is every single person's body is different. They're going to react to certain foods, gluten deficiency, dairy, all of those kinds of things. So we couldn't go into depth on all of those, but just talking about, like, we need to have you getting in your water, getting in the right amount of calories, eat correctly, whatever correctly is to you, and go from there.
Yeah, no, I think that's super important. And one thing I've recently done is factor meals. I love factor meals. Do you
love? I've
my
heard
God,
really good
I have one with me because I'm not headed back to the office. Because we have so many episodes we're doing that I brought with me. 2 minutes in the microwave. Yeah, and I'm stocked up. I'm overstocked up now because I missed a couple days because I've had dinner meetings and things like that last week. I pay, or it's lunch and dinner, so 7 days a week, lunch and dinner. And under 500 calories, less than about 2 minutes in the microwave, comes out perfect. My son loves it, and I only pay $130 a week. And I'm like, that $130 a week, you and I can easily go out. Dinner would be $130, So it's like I get 7 days, lunch and dinner, boom. It's a no-brainer.
And Factor, if you're watching this, please send Chris a sponsorship package, because that was a full 60-second segment.
I know, right? They do not sponsor this yet, but yeah, and the food is good. And it's so important what you put into your system, because it's just like a car. If you have a Ferrari, or if you're operating at a speed like a Ferrari and you put bad gas in it, you're not going to get too far.
It's not going to work.
No, not at all. Not at all. So you and brother started training these young elite athletes, trying to get them to go pro in the collegiate level. Yeah. From there, what's that next? Where did everything progress in the furniture business?
We eventually, my senior year of high school, brother's 2.5 years older, so he would have been a sophomore right now, up at App State studying construction management. Nice. So we started that year, my senior year of high school, building custom furniture. And so the quick story behind that is I was sitting in a math class, and I went to a small school.
Yeah, we're going to have to hear a story, because no one says, hey, I'm going to start a furniture company. Well, or very rarely.
Yes. And so I was sitting up in a math class, small school in Davidson, so we were close with all of our teachers. So this wasn't a weird conversation. And it was before class, and she was looking at dining room tables. And so she was scrolling through Etsy or wherever it was, and I was making fun of how awful all of these tables looked for the $1,000 to $2,000 price tag.
It's unbelievable how expensive.
Crazy.
Wait till you get to commercial, office furniture.
And build out.
We got a quote. This was like a month or 2 months ago for an office space. They wanted like $105,000. I said, "What? You guys are crazy! Just for office
and
furniture."
It's awful quality furniture.
I said, that's almost 2 years of our lease payment. Like crazy. Unbelievable.
And so we were sitting down. I was making fun of how awful these tables looked. And I was like, I will build you that this weekend for $100 in labor, just because I knew that we could go to Lowe's, get it, very cheap stuff, paint it, have it done in that weekend. Wow. And so the slight backstory is, growing up, my family have always been the kind of people that has never hired anyone to do anything. So,
so you guys have always been hands-on,
hands-on, fixing. If anything gave out, We have been the ones to fix it.
Wow.
And so I'm saying we lightly. My brother is definitely more into that world than me. General contractor and home builder.
So you
now.
call him up.
Yes, I call him up. And so that's what happened was whenever we were deciding to build this table, I was like, let's just see what happens. He was there. I don't even remember why he was there that weekend, or maybe it was at the end of the semester or something like that. And so we built this table in a weekend. And so the light bulb pretty quickly goes off when you spend $50, $75 on materials and someone else is charging $1,500 for the same amount of work. He was an excellent arty contractor and had spent his entire life rebuilding a house that we had gotten growing up and doing things like that. So he was very interested, and we were like, we owned all the tools. It was very low cost, very easy to get into. So it was like, why not just give this a shot and see what happens? So we did that for almost 2 years. And so that was really the start of where I handled most of the business side, the marketing, the branding, the advertising, the stuff that I found interesting.
Yeah.
I helped him on some of the builds, but he really did the blueprints, made sure that everything was feasible, put quotes together, things like that whenever we were out, giving quotes out to people. And it was honestly a perfect combination in between the two of us. Yeah.
Wow. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And how'd that go? You guys sell off that business?
Yeah. So we didn't really scale it too much. So it was an awesome experiment on the custom furniture design and things, because it was more bespoke, for lack of better words, of going out and getting custom pieces and truly walking into a dining room and figuring out what their customer's vision is and what they might want to do and putting something special together for them.
Yeah.
And so we could have probably held on to it for a little bit longer and ended up selling it. But what really made it special was my brother and I. It was Hedrick Custom Design. So it was us. If we were going to move on, we didn't want to have to worry about doing acquisitions or anything like that. And I was 18 years old at the time we closed it down. So an acquisition was not in the vocab yet.
Yeah.
So we closed that down and then graduated, and that's when I sat down and started doing the real estate course, was at the transition out of those.
Love that. And talk to us about real estate. Obviously, building hands-on has a lot of components to real estate.
Yeah.
What really sparked your interest saying, hey, I'm getting into the real estate side?
Honestly, the same thing that caught my interest in furniture of low cost. You can go and get a real estate license for what? $300 in the state of North Carolina.
Test is pretty hard, but once you pass it, yes.
So, so you take the course if you have a POLTS and are 18. Those are the requirements. And then you just have to be a good student and study your ass off.
And what I realized when I was a real estate broker getting into it, and don't get me wrong, I love some of the real estate brokers out there, but a lot of them are stay-at-home housewives. A lot of them take it as a part-time job. A lot of them are using it as a retirement, to stay busy, and they don't actually treat it like a business.
Yeah, I think.
And so when I got in, I actually treated it like a business.
Yeah, I think that the average real estate agent is a 54-year-old woman.
Okay.
And so that is spot on to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so
I realized that very quickly. I did over 75 open houses my first year. To crank out business. Yeah. But I realized that, and I said, okay, this is no brainer. It's lazy competition. I'm going to win.
Well, and it really was. That's what opened my eyes, and I thought that there was a massive opportunity, which I know is when you and I connected originally 3-4 years ago when we were both in a similar space of just how much opportunity there is for someone to come in and take this as a true business approach and not a hobby, not a I like opening doors and seeing what's going on and gossiping.
Most definitely.
Which again, there are some outstanding 54-year-old women that are doing real estate, but there's a different mindset flip.
It is. And we had a luxury real estate on here. I love her. Her name's Sherry. She's she's not even close to 54. She's very, very young. Beautiful woman. She focuses on luxury real estate. And she was talking, and I've known her personally for a couple years. She goes above and beyond. She goes to these manufacturing facilities, understands the granite. Where is it coming from? The origin of it. Why is it the way it is? Yeah. Like really going deep, even with the cabinetry. Like she goes deep with it, and that is above and beyond. And you definitely have to do that for your luxury clients. If you're selling $2, $3, $4, $5 million homes, you want that level of customer service.
Well, and that was the fortunate part of real estate when I got into it was I knew I had to market, so I was just like I'm just going to market in the luxury world. And I was up in High Point University at the time, so I was doing real estate up there primarily. And so the price tag's a little bit different in the Greensboro area. It's a feat if you're above the $1 million mark
totally
up
different.
there. I sold for just under $1 million, 925, I believe, an 8,000 square foot house in Winston-Salem.
Wow.
And so
that's unbelievable.
It's hard to get up there. But no, you're exactly right of taking that extra attention to detail.
Yeah.
And making sure that you are giving a luxurious experience
to
your clients.
If you're going to the Ritz-Carlton and you're paying $800 to $1,000 a night, you're going to anticipate a high-end type of experience, that type of customer service, which lacks in today's world is customer service. If you go to a Motel 8, your level of the level of experience and your level of expectations are going to be extremely low because it's a Motel 8. I don't even know if those are still around these days. But, that is the same thing when you're a real estate agent.
Yeah.
And a lot of real estate agents give that Motel 8 type of customer service to the client who deserves a Ritz-Carlton feel.
Yeah.
All clients deserve a Ritz-Carlton feel, in my opinion, no matter what industry you're in.
Yeah. Well, and it's very difficult to differentiate yourself in the real estate world. And there are so many real estate agents.
Oh my God. Well, right now it's a little slow down. So a lot of people got out.
Yes, a little
but
bit
once
of a
these
check.
rates start to drop, you're going to see these real estate schools. I mean, I remember when I was getting into it in 2014, 15, real estate school, you were 7 months out before you can get a class. Everyone and their mom and their grandmas and their dead grandma, was in that real estate class. It was unbelievable.
Well,
it was so much competition.
And it makes sense. And this is what I tell people all the time. If you have the drive and the energy and you want to do it, one of the best things that you could ever do is get your real estate license and go into sales on that side and learn it. Because and going back to the story of that's how I got into it was it's very easy to do the math of what 3% commission on $1 million home is.
Oh, it's easy. 30,000.
Yeah.
Boom.
And if you're going to put that much of time, effort, and energy into something, might as well go with the most expensive asset class in the United States.
What was a big turning point in my life, and I don't tell, or I've told much people that's not on a podcast, biggest turning point was I wore suits 7 days a week. So I got my suits done at Tom James. You have a very nice pinstripe suit on. I like it. I got my suits done at Tom James, and I had a Range Rover at the time, and I pulled up to a trailer in South Carolina. I know how to de-title a trailer with the state of South Carolina and the DMV. It's not a fun process. Definitely if you're in Chester or Lancaster County. But I was sitting in my car, and I'm like, I'm in a very expensive suit in this car, and I'm looking at this trailer, and I'm like, why am I out here?
Yeah.
Why am I sitting in front of a trailer that I'm only going to make a $300 commission? Like, and I drive, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just done.
Yeah.
I'm done. And that's when I started educating myself, on different alternatives, creating a private equity company, buying into real estate. But I think, everyone and their mom is in it. And when you dive deep into the commission, you might as well go big. I mean, I wish someone opened my eyes to say, hey, why don't you be a commercial broker?
Yeah.
That would have been better. Yeah, let's go sell a $20 million apartment complex, because commercial brokers, you really don't have to do anything. And back then, all you had to do is I always joked every time I toured a multifamily, I'm like, all you have to do is throw it on Zillow and LoopNet, and you sold it,
and you're good to go.
Yeah. Now they got to do a little more legwork. Now they're working for their money.
Yeah.
But back then, you throw it on LoopNet, and you got 50 offers.
Well, and especially right here. I mean,
especially in Charlotte.
It is.
I mean, Charlotte's still ranking very top on all the records for housing. So, I think you're still going to see that growth. I think you are going to see a huge lag.
Yeah.
We already see a huge lag in supply and demand. And I always recommend, if you guys are getting into the multifamily commercial real estate realm, you really want to understand how your market in your city is, go down to the city and see who's pulled permits for mixed use, for multifamily. Yeah. I'll tell you right now, if you go down, I know in Q1 of this year, there's only 2 permits that have been pulled for multifamily in Mecklenburg County.
Interesting.
That tells you things are slowed down substantially.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to see that lag, and then when that rebounds, you're going to have an influx of supply hit the market, which is going to tank the prices. So I think if you can buy now extremely low, do it, but you're going to have to sell very quickly, because once that supply rebounds, I think it's going to tank the prices, because these developers are going to need to get their properties off. But I wish someone told me to go the commercial route, instead of detailing a trailer in the state of South Carolina.
Yeah. Well, and it's an interesting process, and I think that that exploration, especially when real estate can mean so much to so many different people and so many different
There's so many
things.
avenues. I mean,
Like
you can wholesale, you
yeah.
can fix and flip, you can,
Yeah.
buy single family rentals, you
Yeah.
can do the BRRRR method, you can
Yeah.
do retail. I mean, there's so much about real estate. Mobile home parks, which are cash cows. I'm not in that business, but there are cash cows.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a client that just sold his mobile home park for like a little over $9 million.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I called him, I'm like, $9 million for a mobile home park? He goes, this thing cash flows. I said, holy cow, man.
It's amazing. And so I do think that especially anyone that's thinking of going to the real estate world, it is one of the easiest ways and low barrier to entry ways to figure out a ton of business skills that you need to know.
Oh, 100%.
And if you do well, you can do really well.
Oh, you can. Yeah, most definitely. I think, you can do extremely well. I think the relationships you build along the way, especially in the commercial industry, those relationships are key.
Of course.
And you can definitely see more doors open and flourish on that. And then I recommend to everyone, hey, if you're getting into real estate, go commercial. Like that's my thing. Go commercial. Find out your niche. Is it industrial? Is it hospitality? Is it office? Find out your niche and run with it.
Well, and I find that so interesting because that was such a turnoff of mine. I had no interest of going the commercial world.
Interesting.
And so that was what I just loved, the human aspect of residential and the relationship side. Now, there are plenty of stories that I could open up on the horror story side of these personal relationships and how they worked out.
Oh, we can get into a couple. I'll tell you. So I was complete opposite, but I didn't like commercial. I remember taking, what is it, CE?
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we're gonna do this commercial side of CE, and I'm like, I'm not getting on a commercial. I'm a residential broker. Why do I need to know this? And I've definitely changed my mindset since then on when information is presented to me. However, at that time, I was solely on the residential side. But what got me is that I was showing $1 million house, and the wife was like, I don't like this paint color. I don't want to buy it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're about to buy $1 million house. You can't spend $4,000 on changing the paint, like really, or $5,000 on changing the paint. Like, it's just paint.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And the minute details.
Yeah. I mean, unbelievable. But yeah, I wish I got my license, went straight into commercial.
Yeah. And it is to each their own. I think that, eventually what really interested me was the firm side of things and running that side. And I thought that that's really where I was going to go before I went the nonprofit route, just because the real estate market and the brokerage model is so ripe for disruption. And there is so many things that you could truly do to disrupt that market. And just a wild idea, take care of real estate agents instead of gouging as much as you can on splits and monthly dues and all of this and all of that. And so that's eventually where I somewhat dabbled into with the firm that I had started and thought that that's where I wanted to go. But there is just, again, reiterating, there is so much that you could do in real estate.
Oh my God,
and just so many places that you can go and so much to explore.
One thing I want people to really understand when it comes to real estate, you need to understand you're playing the game Monopoly. It's not a get rich quick. It's going to take time. And that's why a lot of people don't fully succeed in the real estate game is because they want to play the game Monopoly in 1 hour when it's not like that. It's going to be 5, 6, 7 hours, maybe 2 days, to finish a full game. So you need to have patience and you have to have that consistency across the board.
And it just takes so much time and effort and energy to build a relationship.
Oh yeah, it does.
And that is really all that it is just taking the time to find the right people of who actually would want to list a property with you. And this is not, and I think that one of the biggest things that real estate agents have an issue looking into and thinking about is that this is the most expensive asset that the vast majority of people will ever own.
Oh my God. People don't realize that like your average American has like $500 to $1,000 in their bank account. Like a home is their most expensive. Second is a car to these people, and they're coming and they're married couples or they're coming together and they're like, hey, this is what we want to buy.
And it's a huge financial commitment to buy a home. And it's a huge financial commitment to list a home. And there are very huge repercussions if you choose a bad agent or have a bad experience. If things are sitting on the market for too long, if there's poor marketing, poor photos, poor product description, something's wrongly listed in MLS.
We can talk about inspections. If you don't have a good inspector, if your agent hasn't referred a good inspector or even walk you through the inspection report, you can be out thousands of dollars.
I mean,
depending on what's wrong with the home.
Or someone that does not know that they can pick up the phone and complain to an appraiser about some of the things that they did wrong, and that's a $100,000 swing on the value of a home.
Most definitely.
And there are so many moving parts there of where making sure that agents are at this high caliber and held to a very high regard, well-educated, well taken care of, and have spent the time in the market and know what they're doing. That is where you start to really see that this 3% commission to the right person is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, most definitely. So what was that thought process? You got into the real estate game, and then what was that thought process? I'm going to create my own firm.
Yeah, I really hated paying splits. And it wasn't, I guess, honestly, it wasn't even the paying the splits. It was the approval of things.
What firm were you with?
I was with Lantern beforehand, based out of Kannapolis, a small firm up there, and they are wonderful. Yeah. They're Kannapolis based, close with my parents and family. So we've known
a small or a boutique firm,
and they're slowly growing, and they run an outstanding business.
Love that.
Very, very low fees, taking care of their agents, and just want to actually help agents. And so that is where I really thought that it was an excellent fit for them. Obviously, I wanted the more independence, wanted to go the firm route. It was a personal interest, of course. Yeah. But especially when you start thinking of what you're paying, and if you want to go down a really big rabbit hole of the 6 months I spent in New York after I graduated and did real estate up there, talk about some splits. Being an agent and having to have every single thing that you do approved, all marketing material, all this, all that, you can't even really put your name on it. It needs to put the giant logo of whatever these massive firms are. Follow the color code. You're not an agent. And the biggest question,
employee.
Yeah, and the craziest thing, which is a good gig, you're an employee that they're not paying.
Oh, correct. It's phenomenal for them.
And it's amazing to me, that model still works and people still believe in it. But when you sit down and talk to these massive people that own these firms, I have never found someone that has purchased a home by Googling Keller Williams agent, Allen Tate agent.
No.
Everyone
it's just
wants
like
a personal connection.
It's just like the car wash industry.
Yeah.
You have a lot of these firms growing substantially in the car wash industry. And a lot of these firms are trying to create that brand awareness.
Yeah.
And it's like certain items at Trader Joe's, you're going to go to Trader Joe's or Starbucks. People like Starbucks coffee, so you're going to go to Starbucks over, a Caribou or a different type of coffee brand, Dunkin'. And in the car wash sector, excuse my French, no one gives a fuck. They don't.
No.
They don't give a fuck whether you are a certain brand or not. What they care about is the psychological and conveniency of, is it within a 3 to 5 mile radius? Now, they're not saying 3 to 5 miles in their head. They're saying, oh, I'm driving to and from work. There's that car wash there. I want to be a member.
Yeah.
Do you go more than 5 miles to go to the grocery store?
Oh, no.
Probably not, unless it's a Costco or Sam's. And you want to buy bulk, and you're going to spend all day Saturday to go and get certain items.
Stock freezer.
You'll go 5 miles out. But your normal goods that you are living every day, no, you're going to go within a 5 mile radius from your home or your work. And so that's the same thing with a car wash, and that's the same thing with a real estate agent. You're going to Google a home. You're more than likely going to go to Zillow or Homes.com. Realtor.com, and you're going to find that home, and you're just going to say, let me talk to an agent. Cool. And then when you build that relationship with that agent, then they're like, okay, I want this person to be my representative when we go look at houses. They're not, hey, I went with KW here, so I want to go with KW there. It just doesn't work.
And maybe that's a generational change, and maybe for my grandparents they would have done that, but I just don't think so.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. Just a quick reminder to make sure you never miss an episode. Stay connected with us by following us on social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, TikTok at Chris_Salerno_. And don't forget to subscribe to YouTube to catch the video versions of our episode. You'll get exclusive content, behind-the-scenes footage, and much more. Head over to YouTube, Chris_Salerno now, and hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned because we've got more great content coming right after this. I definitely don't think it's going to change because it's independent of the individual, meaning the agent. That I don't care if you're a KW agent or not. Frankly, I don't even know. I just like you, so I want you to represent me.
Well, and I would argue that a very interesting business model would be to see, and this is where, especially in North Carolina, where it's easy to set up a firm, that it could very easily be going of independent agents, all running independent brokerages, all doing their own thing. Obviously, I think that one of the biggest holdbacks is the legal aspect. Everyone wants a BIC to call to go and see, oh shit, something has hit the fan. I need to talk to someone before the real estate commission comes knocking, or other things like that.
They scare you with this real estate commission shit.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They scare you with it.
Which is understandable. I mean, again, largest asset class. It's very important for people to be taking care of these transactions.
I think people definitely should be held accountable.
Oh yeah,
100%. Because I've read real estate agents
it's crazy.
Saying, hey, go ahead and deposit the money into this account. It's his own account, and they're taking the money.
Oh yeah.
So I've seen I've read tons of articles like that. Yeah. So I do 100% believe there needs to be accountability, but I don't think there needs to be accountability to a certain extent where people are freaking out and scared.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the most intimidating things about North Carolina and South Carolina, because those are two of the states that I'm most familiar with, being a brokerage state, of where you are immediately doing 100, 150 pages of paperwork on each transaction, where New York and California,
like 5.
Yeah.
It's straight, simple, to the point.
An attorney state, and so it's
and
so
North Carolina is
different.
a little different because North Carolina, you have a deposit and then you have a due diligence fee.
Yeah.
And one automatically goes non-refundable right when that contract's executed, where South Carolina's not like that.
Yeah, and you have a little more skin in the game, which I like. I'm all about the due diligence fee.
And I think it's very important to have. I think it's super important to make sure that the agent helps educate their client on that, because I've read, I'm on some Facebook groups locally, and I've read, some people that will post that they have 50, 100,000 and they didn't know it was hard. How do they get the money back? Oh yeah. I found a loophole in South Carolina where everything's contingent upon financing.
Huh. Interesting.
So I don't know if it's this way now.
Yeah.
I know when I brokered, there was a clause in there, and it was all contingent upon financing.
That's excellent.
And there was a box you can check, and we always check. It's contingent upon financing. So I had a client. I'll never forget this. It was a $735,000 home. Beautiful home, beautiful location. I'm selling their house, and 2 days before closing, she calls me crying, and I said, "What's going on?" She says, "I'm getting a divorce," and I said, well, okay. And she goes, how can we get my earnest money back? Yeah. And I said, well, there's a loophole in the contract where everything's contingent upon financing. Give me a second. I called the lender up. I said, hey, they're getting a divorce.
They won't be able to.
She can't qualify on her own with this. I guess you guys can't approve her.
Yeah.
So I need a letter of denial that she's not approved. They sent that. I sent it to the listing agent saying, hey, here it is. Yeah. Send us the money back. Yeah. They sent us back. And she was happy because I understood the contracts. North Carolina's not like that. But I think it's super important to know that, because that level of customer service.
Well, and that's, exactly the point that we were making earlier. You just saved, 2-3% was probably that earnest money deposit?
It was a large chunk of change.
And so when you are, really thinking about choosing real estate agents and doing all of that, you just saved a significant amount of money to someone that is now going to be going through a life-altering event, and that money is going to be needed.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so you're worth your weight in gold.
Oh, most definitely. So running the real estate company, really going into it because you want better splits. Talk to us about how, some of the struggles, some of the roadblocks that you went through, operating that.
Yeah, it really was quite easy, which is surprising. And I tell people this all the time. Starting a real estate firm in North Carolina is an easy procedure.
It is. A good friend of mine, his name's Landon Albrecht. I coached him right when he got into it. He now runs the Albrecht Group, his own brokerage. And I think this year he'll clear like $250 million in annual sales. And he's crushing it. And he's only 24, 25.
Well, and that's again, going back to what we were talking about earlier with personal brand and personal connections, is that when I switched over to my own firm, there was no one that was like, no, I want to stay because of the previous firm that you're with, or the infrastructure there, or anything like that. And so it really does make things easy. And again, it was a graduating step, and it's still not that expensive. You're paying maybe a couple $100s a month for MLS, for other items like that, but you can keep costs very, very low.
And again, people are not tied to a brand like EXP, Keller
Yeah.
Williams, Century 21.
Whatever it
is Century 21 still around?
I believe.
Are they?
Now that you're saying that, I don't know.
I don't know.
I believe so. I haven't seen a sign.
I know when I was in the
recently.
industry, they did the full rebranding because it was basically it was like senior citizen, and they're trying to compete with KW. And then EXP came out, so it was definitely modern compared to old.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't even know if they're still around. But I think it's the route to go once you have that certain levels. Because I know I believe North Carolina, you have to have a certain amount of years
2 years,
before.
yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
South Carolina is a certain way too. So once you do that, I think you should go out there, get great branding, and run with it because no one's tied to one.
And just have fun. That's what I enjoyed the most, was the marketing, the branding, you're off the leash. You need to obviously adhere to all the government, the fair housing, the stuff,
100%,
all of those items.
100%.
But you're off the leash to do whatever you want to do and actually have fun with it.
Yeah.
And I think that is, again, where any business, but especially real estate, where things can get a little monotonous, and you can sit down and easily spend 4 or 5 hours a day just signing contracts and sending out paperwork and doing things like that, opening doors, turning on lights. It can get cyclical.
Yeah.
And so being able to actually have some fun, do some advertising, do some more sponsorship work, things like that, that's where I highly recommend for people if they want to take that extra step. Obviously, that's not for everyone.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So you're winding down that real estate career, and now what opened your eyes to what you're doing today?
Yeah. And so at the end, I did real estate for almost 4 years in North Carolina, and that was basically the entire time that I was in college. And so during that entire time, I had this dream of, if I'm going to do real estate, let's go and do it in the most expensive city in the world. If I'm going to sell homes and get into the luxury market, we might as well be selling that $250 million penthouse in 432 Park Ave. And so once I had graduated, I immediately moved to New York City.
So I had that same mindset.
Okay.
And I went and I interviewed with firms in Manhattan and in Miami.
Okay.
And I said, those are the two best cities on the East Coast.
Yes.
Miami, New York, Manhattan, and Miami. And I interviewed both. But something drew me back to Charlotte, and I said, okay, I'm staying back in Charlotte. But I definitely got that vibe
going down
too.
the same rabbit hole. And so I went up there and just was, if I was to go back, I could have done more homework. If I was losing interest in real estate in North Carolina, I probably wasn't going to gain it up there. Especially when I was going to have to join another firm. I wasn't going to be able to run the brokerage and do the things that I enjoyed. So I went up there, did real estate for about 6 months.
It's cutthroat up there because you have no MLS.
No MLS. They've definitely done a good job, the firms up there, of cornering the market. Pay some very high splits.
Ryan
you can't start a firm.
Yeah.
Which he's doing an amazing job.
Yeah,
really
phenomenal marketing. He's crushing it.
He is crushing it.
I haven't seen his new Netflix movie, but
I haven't either. I've
seen, because I follow him on Instagram. I've seen some clips from it, and it looks really good.
Yeah.
Now, probably dramatized.
Well, and that is, he does come from the acting world, but he does a good job. And he's
I think his brand,
sales machine,
all that is phenomenal. Yeah. Do they have one here in Charlotte? I don't know.
Yeah.
Do they?
They opened a branch about a year or two ago.
Did they? Yeah, because I know he really took that right after COVID across the United States big time.
He's playing the long game. He's doing a good job.
Yeah. And that goes to tell you that you can create your own brokerage and expand it because Keller Williams is not the end all be all. EXP is not the end all be all.
Well, and he's the perfect real estate story. He was an actor in Manhattan.
What a hands actor, right?
Yeah, a hand model that could not make it work. And so he just got his real estate license, was doing apartment leases, and then got hooked. And he's probably been doing it 10, 15 years, so something like that. So
you went up there, cutthroat industry, no MLS.
Yeah. And it was, again, just not what I wanted to do. And so when I was up there, I've forever just kept a very long list of startup ideas and other things that I wanted to do on my phone. And I had this idea of starting a nonprofit, maybe a foundation on the side, something that I could do to get a little bit more of my personal interest and personal giving back and philanthropic side and scratch that itch, but not something that I wanted to do full time. And so once I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, I was like, real estate's not what I'm going to want to do.
Yeah.
Perks of being a real estate agent, it was about May or June, peak rent. I knew that I was underpaying for my rent. So I went to my landlord and was like, you could be charging a lot more for this. Let me out and I'll help you and do that. And so got out of my lease, came back down here. I knew I did not want to start a business in New York City with how expensive it is.
Really?
And so I came back down here and kind of gave myself a little bit of time. I'd saved all the money that I had made. And I was like, let's flush this out and figure out some other ideas that I might want to do. But the nonprofit just kept coming up and coming up and coming up. And it really just took over. And so when I was flushing out the ideas of what it might be that I wanted to do, I couldn't let that sit. And so I had to explore it and scratch that itch a little bit. And now we just passed 2 years since we incorporated. So
wow,
now,
congratulations.
Talk about how quick time flies.
Oh, I know.
So we've been doing that since 2022, July of 2022, which is crazy to me.
Time flies. Talk to us more about the nonprofit myCharity and what you're doing with it and how you're helping.
Yeah, so we are on a mission to make everyone love donating. And so when I was fleshing out this idea, it's very apparent that people want to make an impact in the world.
Yeah.
Every single person can agree that they want to give back, they want to make a difference, but a lot of people don't. Only 31% of people donate monthly to nonprofits, yet the average person spends $219 a month on other subscriptions.
Oh, yeah.
In the United States, we spend 55 times more money than we donate. So there's this massive, massive gap. And the general theory that we have here is because the consumer experience for donating is awful. Out of my experience, I can attest, you donate, you never know what your money does. You never get any communication back from nonprofit organizations, and it just is not a simple, easy, fulfilling process.
Oh, it's not. I always say if you're going to donate, especially a very large sum, ask for the P&L of the charity you're donating to. Yeah. People don't realize they can do that.
Oh, yeah.
Ask for the P&L.
It's public knowledge as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Ask for the P&L and look into it. And, wait, they're paying their execs $500,000 a year, $500,000?
Yeah.
If that doesn't rub you right, then don't donate to that charity. Yeah. But, I think people should analyze the P&L so they understand, is this actually going to what they're saying it's going to, or they're just paying their execs a crazy stupid amount.
And so we wanted to really set out and create the best donation experience possible. And so what we've done is we've created an online giving platform where users go online. They pick and choose the causes that they care about from 40 different options: cancer, climate change, sea turtles, whatever it is, and donate monthly. Wow. We then take 100% of their donations directly to the field and then follow up with photos, videos, GPS coordinates, financial report, and field notes, proving down to the penny exactly what your donation did. Wow. And you can donate as little as $5 a month, and you'll still get that same level of customer service. This is not, if you're writing a $50,000 check, getting your name on a building. This is for the everyday individual that wants to make a difference, because Netflix made $34 billion last year.
Yeah.
It would cost 31 and some change to solve the global water crisis and give 770 million people access to clean drinking water that have never had access to it before. That would be the greatest humanitarian achievement in history, easily.
Oh, yeah.
Netflix has enough money to do that in a year. And so when we can talk about that and pass that on, it doesn't have to be clean water. No. It doesn't have to be whatever. Anything that you're interested in making a difference, we believe that you need a tool to easily, efficiently, and transparently do that. And so that's exactly what we've created.
No, I love that. And you can pick any different type of, causes.
Yeah.
And then, I think that's super important, again, because I've said, if you're going to invest, understand it, understand where that capital is going to and things like that. And with that transparency that you guys have on whatever I decide to give, I think is super important.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the other aspect that's very interesting and unique is that when you donate to these causes, we pool your money together with other donors. So if you're donating $10 a month to cancer research, we pull that together until we hit a goal, $10,000, we'll say for this example. And then we make grants to pre-vetted and pre-approved nonprofit partners in the field. So we're not the ones doing the work.
Yeah.
I should not be in a lab coat looking at cancer cells. That is definitely not the case of what we should be doing. But when we do that, you're getting access to our team that is looking at specialized projects and pre-approved projects that we know is making the biggest impact.
Love that.
And this is, we have no ownership in any other nonprofit organizations. We're doing nothing behind the scenes that we shouldn't be doing. This is because we want to help people make the most impact in the world.
Most definitely.
And so you're getting access to an easier way to donate 40 plus causes at once, a more transparent way to donate, 100% going to the field. And then you're getting access to specialized projects, and then obviously the reporting, the outcome that you don't get anywhere else. So we're checking a lot of boxes here that, to be frank, it was my personal wants and my personal poor experience that I had.
But I love the website name too. I love
thank you.
The company name. Yeah. I think it's super important, and it's spot on too. One thing I'm curious about is, out of all of those different type of causes, is there one that, obviously there's one that is more, a lot more people are gravitated towards. Which one is that?
In general, it tends to be in the United States, not necessarily for us. Cancer.
So you guys are worldwide.
Yeah, we're already international. We're planting trees as you speak in Indonesia.
Wow.
So we're all of our partners are working globally. Well, not all of our partners, but we have a global range of partners,
presence,
obviously.
Yeah.
And so typically cancer research is the most funded in the United States. There are some others.
It's so wild. My mother has stage 4 breast cancer. She's going on 8 years of fighting it, and it is a money maker. And it's so mind-boggling. This is my opinion, is that we can come up with a COVID vaccine so quickly. Now, we don't still know the full side effects of it, which I understand, but we can come up with it so quickly, throw so many funds towards it, but we still can't find anything for cancer. It's like
it's an expensive process, and again, this is where, when you get into the deep scientific research, and this is why I love our model. No way I should be doing anything on the cancer research scale, but it is a expensive endeavor for sure. I think that I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it's around $30 million, something like that, to get through a clinical trial to where something might be able to come to market of a vaccine of some kind.
But it's like, look at COVID.
Oh yeah.
They spent
Money's
billions.
moving.
Well, I mean, they spent billions for the COVID vaccine, shoved it all down our throats, and then now they still can't find anything for cancer. Because the cancer, I mean, pull up statistics, and I'm not reading from a certain fact, but pull up statistics. I'm sure cancer is the number one profit generation for these larger companies.
I have no idea.
I mean, I know my mother pays $30,000 a month.
Goodness gracious.
Month.
Yeah.
For these pills she takes. No pill should cost $30K. Like, come on.
And it's amazing to me how expensive things are. One of my childhood best friends got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was in 1st or 2nd grade. Insulin, man. I mean, it's
that's
crazy
unbelievable. And you got to take it to be alive.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and these insurance companies are milking it, especially for small businesses too. As small businesses, you can't have health insurance for your employees. It's just too expensive. We've looked at it, and I'm like, look, you guys are better off going on your own because it's just too expensive.
Well, and it's an interesting game, and I don't know systemically how you change that in the United States, because it's a cash
cow for them. And do you ever change it? I don't know.
Yeah. And so
I don't know if you can.
That's where, I mean, again, trying to get the behind the scenes look on cancer research, we'll just continue to go with, of personalized projects and helping people actually see what their outcome is on donations, because the lack of transparency in donating is apparent. And I say this all the time, I don't think it's necessarily the nonprofit's fault. Yeah. The general consensus of nonprofits is that they should be overworked and underpaid. And so there's no way that these small, medium-sized organizations can have a full marketing team, can have a full tech team that is building out and tracking all their donations to the scale that we are. And it's a shame, because these are the most important people that are doing the most important work.
Most definitely.
And they need the best resources possible. Yep. But it's the nonprofit world coming from the for-profit world, nothing like I expected.
Really?
And it's a whole different game of how people are spending money, how the general consensus of fundraising and how things work. It's a completely different world, but I am fully addicted to it. I love the ability to marry the startup and entrepreneurship world with impact. And I think that giving that to other people and empowering other people wherever they are and whatever they want to do to make a difference in the world, if we could have some more companies doing that, I mean, it really would be an extraordinary growth for impact in general.
So for those individuals out there that may want to start up a nonprofit or a company similar to myCharity, my biggest thing is how does myCharity stay afloat?
Yeah.
What does myCharity, do you guys take in donations to stay afloat?
Yeah.
How does that work? because you guys have such a wonderful model. You're creating a lasting impact in multiple charities across the world. They're counting on you guys. And as you guys grow, they're going to count on you guys even more. And we got to make sure that, myCharity operates like a business. So talk to us a little bit about that business side. How does myCharity stay afloat? Things like that.
So we separately fundraise for operations costs. That's my salary, marketing, rent, insurance, anything that you can think of. We have behind the scenes conversations with wealthy individuals that really believe in our model, that are comfortable with writing a $50,000, $100,000, $1 million check, whatever it is. And in addition to that, when you donate online, you can offer to give us a tip or something, the Wikipedia model, $5 a month, just to go to our operation costs and a thank you for our work and the transparency that we're doing. Now, we operate on a 2 bank account model. So these funds do not coerce. We make transfers from a savings account, sort everything out. And I mean, that is the biggest and most difficult part, in my opinion, of the financial sorting of everything that we're doing on the back end. From the time that we receive a donation, it's about a 150-step process to properly account and sort and tag that, because we don't want your donation of $5 a month that happened at 10:51 a.m. to mix in with someone else's donation that's going to sea turtle conservation.
Not at all.
Those cannot mix up. So we've really built a robust system to keep those accounted for, but those are our main avenues. Now, what I'm really excited about and interested in is some other potential routes that we could go in the future. National Geographic does an excellent job of a hybrid model. Everyone's favorite nonprofit is National Geographic, the for-profit company. And so a lot of people don't realize that National Geographic is a for-profit with a nonprofit wing that you donate towards. And so, I mean, there's a reason Disney bought them. National Geographic made $600-700 million last year, I believe. And so they're really doing a good job.
Not just off their commercials.
And
their channel.
The advertisements, the sponsorships, things like that. And to be honest, I'm happy with them making that money. Line in the pockets, doing well, because they do an excellent job of promoting their work. A lot of that money gets funneled back into the nonprofit work that they're doing. And so we are down the road, I'm sure that we will do, for tax reasons, some more for-profit work, but have the nonprofit own 51%, 100%, whatever it is, to figure out what we're going to do there. I'm not interested in creating this as a for-profit company to line my pockets. We can make money elsewhere.
It's funny, if you do the research, Rolex, we all know Rolex,
nonprofit.
They're a nonprofit. Now, why would they be a nonprofit?
That I don't.
I mean, they're a big sponsor of F1.
Yeah. And I talk about them frequently to people all the time of why they're a nonprofit. And I have not done the research. This will inspire me today. I will finally do the research as to why they are, what they're doing.
Do the research, and we'll bring it back on.
Yeah, I will.
And we can talk deep into Rolex on why they are a nonprofit.
And really, I mean, when it comes down to it, nonprofit, all that means really is that there is no ownership. There's no revenue. Correct. No one owns anything. So, which is an interesting aspect of myCharity that a lot of people don't realize, is that while we've been on this podcast, could have gotten fired and not be able to run the organization. I don't sit on the board of directors. I have no voting shares of what we do behind the boardroom. So being the founder, it's an interesting space of where, I mean, you devote all this time, and it's the right thing morally and ethically. If I go out and do something wrong, if I've been 100%. Laundering donations behind, I should be able to get fired. But that is the nonprofit model, is that employees have no voting stake. There's no shares. There's no nothing. There's no ownership. And so nonprofit does not mean non-revenue. And I think that is a big confusion that people have.
Most definitely.
And so trying to separate that, and that's where the Rolex example comes in, of like they're printing cash, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
And doing an excellent job, but no one's just not making any shares or ownership revenue on that side. So why they do that, I don't know, but this will inspire me. I will go and find this out for you.
Yeah, definitely find that out. I have to do some research too. I'm not naming any nonprofits, but I came across a nonprofit here in Charlotte, and it was very interesting. As you said earlier, all the financials are public, and I was looking at the financials, and it had the 1 year it was like $380,000 in revenue, but $18 million in expenses. And then the next year was $400,000 in revenue and $7 million in expenses. And I'm scratching my head. I'm like, okay, I'm catching a trend. Someone, and I know the owner I don't know him, but I know of him because I ended up researching, okay, who owns this nonprofit? And it's a very wealthy businessman. And so I'm thinking in my head, something's going on.
Some tax strategies going on.
I need to figure out more about these tax strategies. And maybe I'll have a nonprofit attorney on here to talk about that. I think that's a good idea. But I think what you guys are doing is phenomenal.
Thank you.
I love what you guys are doing. And at the end of the day, you guys got to keep your lights on because you guys have to help more charities out there. How was that conversation when you said, okay, let's go international? What's that look like?
It really is not that difficult of a situation. So the reforestation example is what I'll use, what I was saying earlier, that we're planting trees in Indonesia right now. So a lot of organizations already have international roots. And so our main partner in the reforestation world right now is based out of California. And so we are able to easily connect with them, dive into their operations and see what they're doing. But when we are working with pre-vetted and pre-approved partners, part of that is us looking and connecting with their executive leadership, going through all their financials, and understanding the work that they're doing. And so again, this is where our model is so exciting to me, because we just immediately get to tap in to the work that has been done over decades and decades of other organizations that already have these connections in places that would take us years to establish the expertise that would just take so much time, effort, and money that we don't have access to.
Oh, yeah.
So we're able to just immediately tap into these networks of people that are already doing amazing work. So it really is, honestly, for us, a fairly easy process to expand internationally. Now, there are some nonprofit registration, things like that we're going to have to look into, of getting our status in international countries and things like that for tax purposes. But I mean, heck, it really has not been the most difficult legally and all of that, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing for us.
A big question that came to mind just now is how do you guys vet these nonprofits? You know, I'm weary. I don't want to place my money. Who knows? You know, how do you guys really vet them before you say, okay, we're going to bring this nonprofit on the platform?
Yeah. So it's a two-step process. So first, we do all of this pre-vetting. And so that is where we look into their financials, see what's going on under the hood. Yeah. We connect with their executive leadership team. Perks of us is when you have money to give, people listen.
They're gonna hold a meeting with you.
Yes, and then just being able to understand their work and get the under the hood look. So that's our pre-vetting process. And then the second thing that we do is we make grants to these organizations. So a grant is a donation with requirements, in short. And so when we do that, we say, we need to understand the work that you're doing. And we also need those photos, videos, GPS coordinates, financial reports, and field notes that prove impact down to the penny, because that's what we send back to all of our donors to say, Chris, you donated $100 to cancer research. Here's $100 of the $15,000 grant that we sent. Here's what it did. Here's that. And a lot of organizations get really excited of having that conversation because they are understanding this transparent process that we're trying to create and pass on.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's double-sided of we do homework on the beginning, but then we also make grants that hold them to a higher standard of just a blank donation that is going out unrestricted, which again, I am all for unrestricted donations. Yeah. Nonprofits need to be let off the leash and do the work that they're doing, but there's also needs to be some higher transparency and higher accountability, because I am of the firm belief that nonprofit employees and executives should be paid market level, if not higher. They're doing excellent work. But if I've donated, I'd like to know if my money went to a marketing budget, to insurance, or towards cancer research, because that's three very different things.
Most definitely. And you need the marketing budget. You need to have, you need to have the payroll so you can keep doing the cancer research or, having that operation run. So in my opinion, if you're donating and you see, it went to marketing, don't feel bad. You're still helping the greater cause of finding out what's going on in the cancer industry.
It does make a big difference if you are consistently donating to efforts that you don't necessarily get to vote on. And I think that that's where the transparent aspect comes in. And that's why we do the 100% model. If you want to support our operations separately, you can. And a lot of people do, because they appreciate the work that we're doing. They understand that they want to fund the vehicle as well. But it's not normally even. People want to spend a little more money on operations to the field or directly to the field and a little less on our operations, which is completely understandable. But I do think nonprofits need funding.
Yep.
They need to be let off the leash to do their work, but they also need to do a better job on the transparency and reporting side, because printing out that 40-page IRS document, that 990, I run a nonprofit, and that's not very helpful for me to go through and see.
No,
so it is I mean, you need to be a CPA. You need to be able to dive into that to really see what's going on. And then, I mean, we all do taxes. We understand how the numbers move and how they work. And so
most definitely.
It's there's a lot of moving parts there, but in short, I think that the transparent aspect of donating needs to be taken up a little bit in general, but again, it's an expensive and difficult process to do that. So I understand how small and medium-sized organizations don't have the resources to do that.
Most definitely. Let's talk about growth. Where do you want myCharity going? Where are you seeing it going?
Yeah. I mean, I want this to be the go-to donation platform for individuals. I am 24 years old. I have some time and energy that I can put into this. I mean, the Netflix number I'd love to hit. I really think if we could get and crack the code to where you and Stephanie sit down and are having coffee, having drinks, and you get a notification on your phone and you get excited to see what's going on. $10 a month, whatever it is. I want every single person, as many as we can get, to actually love donating. I mean, it is the most rewarding process. Ask anyone. I mean, you have experience in the philanthropy world.
Oh, yes.
It is the most rewarding process.
Knowing it's going to a good cause. And we donate to Charlotte Angels, which is a nonprofit for foster kids and foster families. You know, it's super important because my son, he's my world. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that he's my world. I love that kid so much. But it's astonishing to how many shitty parents there are out there that neglect their child. And then the child grows up and we wonder why each generation is not intelligent or they do stupid things. It's because of the foundation that they did not have. And if we can help donate to that and help that cause of building a stronger foundation for them to excel in this world, why not? And the feeling is I can't explain it. This is amazing.
And so that's what I want. I want people to be sitting down and go off on a tangent on organizations that they're supporting because they're passionate about it. And they know that they're making a difference. You know that you're making a difference because you're personally involved with that organization. You understand the work. You've done the homework. But what I want to do is give everyone access to that for $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, $100 a month, whatever it is that you want to donate monthly, and not have to write a massive check and build those personal relationships and do the homework on your own, because it should be easy. If we want to really make a difference in the world, it needs to be easy, it needs to be informational, and it needs to be fulfilling.
I agree.
When you check those boxes, things start to change.
Most definitely. Will, what books are you reading right now?
Right now, that is a good question. I have just finished, which is surprising to me that I haven't read, I Am Malala, of her story of the I don't know if you're familiar with the girl that was, I'm trying to think of what her last name is, but she was a humanitarian based out of London, grew up and was the girl that was shot by the Taliban for going to school. And so her story is outstanding, but I will go off on the tangent. The book that I recommend everyone to read, Thirst by Scott Harrison.
Never heard of that one.
Charity Water, one of the best nonprofit organizations in the world. That book and his story is part of the reason I went down the nonprofit world, because they are doing the clean water world like no one else. Transparent. They really popularized the 100% model as well. So they're on the 100% model. Definitely read it. His story is outstanding.
I love that.
Inspiring.
I love that. Are you a big podcast type of guy?
I am, but not as much as I used to be. I listen to like 2 or 3 about a week, but I need to get back into it. But How I Built This, anything that Guy Raz does.
I love How I Built This.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Most
anything
definitely.
that he does.
Yeah. No, that's good. Will, wealth of knowledge. I love what you're doing in the charity
so
work. I'm excited to see myCharity grow substantially and really touch and impact other countries in the world. I'm going to stay very close with you on LinkedIn. If you guys have not, go ahead and follow him on LinkedIn. You know, I'm going to stay very close with you in the growth of myCharity, and anything we can do to help out, don't hesitate to call.
I appreciate it. I'll be back with a report on Rolex.
We'll
figure that out.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to the Chris Lerner Show. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained valuable insight to help you along your journey. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any questions or topics that you would like to cover, feel free to reach out directly to me. Shoot me a message on Instagram at Chris_Salerno_. Until next time, keep pushing forward and stay inspired.